Oh my God, is that you, Agnes Vivarelli? I can see you through my little peephole here. That's right, it's Agnes Vivarelli and Dan RadioStyle here once again. Got another great topic that we wanted to talk about, but kind of first, just real quick, Agnes, man, how you doing? It's awesome to see you again. What's going on?
Yeah, good.
Oh, yeah.
Good to see you. I'm in Sydney.
Woo-hoo.
I'm just enjoying the other city.
Yeah.
Sydney,
by
London.
By the way, man, I'm just going to brag a little bit for her because this is, again, a lot of people talk about manifesting money. I got to manifest money to pay for things. Agnes manifested a place to stay that she doesn't have to pay for. So that's like the equivalent of manifesting $200 a day. Just to everybody out there, it doesn't have to be money. Sometimes you just need a place to stay, and free is pretty darn good price. Sometimes it's hard to negotiate a lower price than free.
That's true.
Sometimes.
That's true.
Just saying. Yeah. That's good. So we were going to talk about an awesome Neville Goddard book. By the way, just for those that don't have it, I've got the reader, the complete reader. Agnes actually has like every single individual book ever written by Neville Goddard or thought about, or if he talked at one point and someone wrote it down on toilet paper, she's got that copy. But for the rest of us, the complete reader is really rad. But anyway, she was going to talk about awakened imagination. So let's I know really very little about this. So what's going on with this one? Talk to me. I love Neville.
Yeah,
let's do this.
Me too. I've just picked this up again because I was obviously around my books, and there was such good bits in here. So we're going to start. What we'll do is we'll read a little bit, and then you can comment, and then we'll just give our little thoughts because there's lots of good little quotes. So let's start with this. Not realizing, we're talking about man, not realizing that all that he encounters is part of himself, he rebels at the thought that he has chosen the conditions of his life, that they are related by affinity to his own mental activity. Man must firmly come to believe that reality lies within him and not without or on the outside. Yeah.
That's where the big phrase came in from, like a lot of us old hippie people, is the as within, so without, that whole concept. And that's really echoed, in my opinion, in that very same line right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, let me just right off the bat, it's probably a great place because I already interrupted. Right?
Keep going.
The spaces find themselves sometimes. But no, the whole idea is that we so much, and I think a lot of us, I don't think I'm the only one, but we exist in our heads in a large extent, really. I mean, if you think about how many times you're like, oh my God, I should have turned left, or did I turn the curling iron off? Right? All the crazy things that might go into our heads every day. We're thinking about all this stuff, and that is where like creation comes from. And what Goddard was really cool talking about, because he started so early, at least in my opinion, the 50s or whatever it was, is he was getting on the train of paying attention to our own thoughts, just trying to listen to that internal dialogue and steer it in a better direction sometimes. And so I really feel like right off the bat, he's starting real strong with that whole piece of manifesting. God, I mean, it's the brilliance of Goddard, I think, is that whole, like, own your thoughts, own your imagery, own it, what you're doing, and then realize everything's groovy. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's that thing of shifting from life's just happening to me to I'm actually projecting, assuming, and then attracting. And that is what I'm getting around me as a 3D experience. So when you read Neville, you start to understand more and more and more that life isn't happening just independently of you. It's happening because of what you're doing.
Here's a perfect analogy that just hit me. You've got to love this. So imagine a boat, right? In a boat, and you're up in the captain's quarters, right? And there's two of the steering wheels, right? And you've got Source, we'll just call it Source for whatever, is that one steering wheel with his hands on the wheel. And you're the other one on the hands on the wheel. And it seems like whenever the wheels turn, both of them, mimic each other, right? But a lot of us, it's the difference between going from Source is actually doing the one that's driving, which Source never really is. That's the problem. Versus us finally realizing, no, it's the wheel we've got our hands on that's actually steering the boat. Source is just giving us what we put in, what our inputs are. Source is mimicking and giving us. So it's funny is it's the difference between thinking life, like you said, life is happening to you versus no, you're happening to it. Like you're telling life what I want to experience, and that's what you're getting back.
Yeah. And I want to bring up this point because I keep getting emails about people saying, "Oh, this YouTuber said there's no free will. This YouTuber said that," and I want to be clear about
some of that. I want to let's hit that real quick.
Okay, now if I had no free will, when I walk out of this gate here from this house, I would be on automatic pilot going in a certain direction. No, I choose whether I go left or right. So I have got free will.
Well, I think go ahead.
But the free will is there, but we are driven by and make decisions from two things. One, our childhood programming.
Yeah, big time.
Two, our present assumptions. The assumptions of what we think and what we assume to be true.
It's kind of what
that's
I call our
what we get.
Too sometimes.
Yeah. So this whole notion that there's no free will.
Now,
I don't agree with.
No, I don't either. I'm 100% agreement with you. I just wanted to expand on one small part of this, which is you were talking about I'd just be on autopilot. And I will say that I would say for people that truly are on autopilot most of their lives and people that really aren't getting into law of attraction obviously are more autopilot than those of us that are doing law of attraction because we're paying attention.
Exactly
but
right.
For people that are like 95% autopilot, I guess their free will is limited greatly because they don't choose to partake in it. But
they're reacting through childhood, and they've got the filter of what's happened in the past, So they make all their assumptions and their decisions based on that.
This is what I did yesterday. This is what I must do today. It's like, oh, very good, robot man. All right, well done. Hopefully you could do the the little dances that go with the robot too. But
and let's take it a step further because people keep emailing me about. There's some YouTubers saying, that. If you're looking at everyone's you pushed out, that people are just stuffed animals and they just do whatever you project onto them. Well, people aren't stuffed animals; they're people.
Unless they're kind of pudgy. If you poke them, they feel like it a little. I don't know. I'm just saying. I mean, but you're right. People aren't stuffed animals.
Yeah, what they are is they are showing up in front of you in how you uphold them, but they still. Yes, are you pushed out in how they show up with you? So if you assume certain things about them, if you assume certain things about relationships and you assume certain things about if they're a man, men, or women, they're going to give you that version of them, how they show up in front of you. But people often say to me, Dan, well, that person had a really bad childhood and they're still dragging that into their relationship. So how's that me pushed out? Because that happened before I showed up.
Right.
Yes, but why are you there right now with them, around them, and they're in your life?
That's
because
the thing. That's the key point that people don't get is it's not so much that they're being a certain way and you're just happening to be there. It's like you attracted and he attracted, or she, whatever. This situation was attracted because of the energy that we were basically being, or what we were. I mean, it's the us pushed out. It's what we were, law of projection, first what you were talking about. It's what we're sending out. That's what I think of as energy, I guess, is like the energy we shoot out and it bounces back. But
it bounces back.
And that's the projection part, like I feel like. So, we're attracting certain situations and you may not be able to change that person. You may change yourself and go, I deserve better. And then now all of a sudden what you're projecting out actually attracts a different person in response now instead of someone that maybe treats you poorly or doesn't love you. And by the way, you and I think it was our last video. We did like an hour on law of attraction. So I figure it's a good place to remind people that we've linked that below because that was a really fun show that we did. And it was one of those, because I get a lot of emails and I think it's us pushed out's kind of thrown around in a very teddy bear-esque manner. And it's deeper than that.
Teddy bear, right?
Right, where everyone's a teddy bear, but they kind of do, right? Like everybody, it's like, well, everybody just does. They're just you pushed out. And it's like, not quite. Like you need to understand that concept better, and that's
the concept more deeply.
Yeah, and you and I, we did an hour on it, and I frankly think we covered it from a lot of really, really awesome angles. So anyway, I agree with you. The us pushed out thing is used and abused in ways that, it's like, all right, but. Let's look at this a little more realistically, not so one little 6-second title of a video, right? Or 6-word title,
I mean, people are people, and the versions of them, you can bring out the best in them and you can bring out the worst in them. But we got to remember, people aren't stuffed animals or robots. They're people.
Yep.
They have their own thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, loves, hates. They're people, and using the law of attraction and everyone's you pushed out to think of them as just robots that come and do whatever you want is not based on love. It's based on you trying to get, if that's how you're thinking about everyone's you pushed out. And if you're thinking about people as how can I get them to do everything I want, you're still not someone that understands how to have a good relationship.
I agree completely. And I guess one way I like to look at it is I feel like, we're all just moths flying around at night. And every once in a while, you end up on a front porch with a porch light with some of the most amazing other moths that you ever thought you would see.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
I've said it a few times. Yeah, I love it. That's
love it.
It's like you bump into people sometimes and you're like, oh my God, I've like waited to meet you my whole life. Like it's just, it's really, really awesome when it happens. So
that is the poetic part of the day. What you just said there.
Nice,
That's just stunning. Oh, Where's my flock of moths?
Right. I need a big. I saw the biggest one when I lived in Tennessee. It's probably like the one. Well, you've probably got like killer moths that actually fly away with kangaroos and stuff, and they're not even
big pterodactyl
There's probably
ones.
only one type of moth that literally bites human beings, and it's probably Australian. It's probably the Wolfgang vampire moth. Yeah. Moth eater. I don't know what they are. Anyway, that's
exactly.
I love when you go there because this place scares me. It's awesome. So, okay, Awaken Imagination.
Let's keep going.
Yeah, I don't know, because we could side salad some more. We are going to cover the best of the best.
We're going to cover some, I love this book, and there's so much good stuff. So, another thing, our imagination connects us with the state desired, but we must use imagination masterfully, not as an overlooker thinking of the end, but as a partaker thinking from the end. We must actually be there in imagination. If we do this, our subjective experience will be realized. So the whole of and from, one of Neville's biggest concepts that he talks about again and again and again and again, which is about being in the state of what you want. So, I was talking to someone this morning in a coaching session. We were discussing how so many people have three things that they're in lack of time, lack of money, lack of love. Now, when you're in any one of those things, you are not able to bring in more money, more time, more love, because you're in the state that is a photocopy, a match, a magnet to not getting any of those
things. You're like the antithesis of it. Yeah, exactly. So it's hard to feel that way because you're getting what you feel. That's the part that's hard for people. They're like, but how do you feel it, right? But you don't feel that way, and that's why you're attracting what you're complaining about right now. That's what I love when people say, but right now things suck, and it's like, I know, that's why you're doing law of attraction, huh? Because otherwise you would already have it and you wouldn't be trying to make it. So that's what's fun about this whole law of attraction thing. So you're 100% right.
And going back to what we were talking about before, if you're seeing that you can make people do things through using everyone as you pushed out,
like puppet strings, right?
The puppet string theory, instead of ask yourself, do I really want someone that just does everything I want, or do I want someone who is free to love me? Now, if you want someone who begs you for attention, personally, I hear that a lot about get someone to beg for you, get someone to commit to you, and the whole word,
to worship
get
me,
someone
to love me the way I love them, and all these,
Whereas really, Dan, that's saying I'm too lazy to love myself and do it for myself, so I'm going to try and get it from you.
Yeah.
Now, if that's the kind of relationship you want, be my guest. But if you want a mature, loving, and meaningful relationship, I can tell you, if someone begged me, I would find that so repulsive, because I think you got no self-love. I don't want to be with you. I wouldn't want someone begging at me like a dog.
I know,
I don't
Anya,
want
when I was begging earlier to go out with them, I can change. You don't have to. Like right now, it's not the time to talk about this, Anya.
I did my how I attracted my specific person video, and somebody thought you were my specific person. I said,
I've had a lot of people say, "You guys are so cute together. You should be together." I'm like, I can think of at least two people that would be really unhappy if that happened.
I know exactly. But I said, look, Dan is very special to me.
Thank you.
He's my organic nutty twin,
Yes,
and that
I agree.
I cannot
Yeah.
replace.
Yeah, you're like my sister of another mister. You know what I mean? There's a weird kinship. It was funny how we met. We've talked about that before.
I
It was
know.
I was kind of ripping on you a little bit. I was sort of being a jerk.
I love how we met.
Yeah.
I love how we met.
It's
It just
pretty
makes
funny.
it way more interesting.
We've got to be getting close to 3 years. I would say January is probably 3 years for us, because I want to say it was close to the start of the year that we started recording. But it's been a little while. It's fun. You and I love doing videos with you, and I think we're trying to do them every couple weeks now. For those of you that enjoy your Agnes and Dan time, so we're trying to find reasons to get together more often. But
to get more often. And really, people need to know, Dan. We just do this to amuse ourselves.
No, that's it. I mean, I'll be honest. There's a lot of times I just talk to myself like this with the camera off. You just don't even. Sometimes I choose to record it. Sometimes I don't. I don't know. That's all I can say. Sometimes it's actually to somebody. Sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
Everyone asks about the picture I have. I'm like, sometimes I just talk to it. Like, hi, wizard guy.
Little wizard guy.
Wizard guy.
So going back to the side saddle, as my friend says, because she was trying to say side salad and she got mixed up. She said side saddle.
That's pretty much the same thing. It's another way to look at it.
The side saddle for this one.
Yes.
If you really want a meaningful, loving, mature relationship, you've got to be someone who understands that it's not about getting people to do stuff for you. It's about you really feeling loved and wanted and secure and offering that in a genuinely dignified and beautiful way to another human being.
I completely agree. I'm speaking to the fact that you know and I know that we have a myriad of people that will communicate with us. And to your point, there's a lot of people that are asking for people like you were saying, that like worship them or like have some sort of weird off balance thing. Now there are times that we will be allowed to manifest these things, create these things in our life. So we understand why it sucks when you have someone that worships you. That's not cool. If you're ever in that place and maybe you're wanting to be, and that's great. I get it, because it's one of those things that maybe either you just don't kind of have the wisdom around it per se, or just maybe haven't experienced it or whatever, and think it's something that it's not. And it's kind of like, I don't want to say it's kind of like fame, but it kind of is. A lot of people are like, I wish I was famous. And it's like, so imagine not being able to go anywhere without having people bother you. Anywhere. You can't go anywhere without having
anymore.
Ever. Again, like you have to dress up in crazy costumes so you can walk in the mall. Like you're like, I used to go to the mall when I was young. I miss doing it, right? Like, so it might be great. And you're like, oh, that'd be a great problem to have, maybe. But for a lot of people, that's where they're like, oh man, it's like I sold my soul to the devil, So it is one of those things where be careful what you ask for, because again, to your point, sometimes you might not be asking for the most healthy thing, and maybe that's what you've manifested here, and you're like, I don't like it. And it's like, well, look at what you're kind of being, and that's what Goddard really tries to get us to do, is look inward. How are you being? How are you feeling? What is going on inside of you? That is what you are attracting or us pushed out, right? It's that whole concept. Don't look to blame the other person. A lot of people are like, will he change? How do I change him? And it's like, you don't. It's you that has the problem, not him. You attracted this, or you are attracted to this. It's not like there are plenty of people in the world that are horrible people on the inside, and it's not that I'm a horrible person pushed out. No, Jeffrey Dahmer in our country, he's a horrible dude, regardless of me. But if I attracted Jeffrey Dahmer to my front door, I'm doing something wrong in my life.
Wrong.
Right? So that's where it kind of comes into play. It's not that there's Jeffrey Dahmers that's out there. It's that there's a Jeffrey Dahmer in here. That's the problem. So that's one thing to really, really pay attention to if you're...
I agree.
Yeah. And I think he's totally beautifully speaking to it. In fact, this will tie into the final part. We'll get there when we do, but it's it's that feeling part. And I don't know if he goes into it even deeper here in this reading that you're doing right now, but that's a really key ingredient that to many people are like, how do I feel like that if I don't have it? Which is kind of what you're trying to talk about too. But the other side is you need to be kind of feeling that way. So
You do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't attract anything that you don't feel you are. See, this is the thing where I see a lot with women that want to be, I want him to treat me like a princess. I want to be his queen. Now, when I hear those words, they're red flags for me.
Yeah, totally.
Because the queen is someone who gets given to and gives nothing in return. She sits on her throne and has people give to her. Is that the kind of relationship you want with another human being? The princess is pandered to as well, and is in this fairy tale that the man does everything for her and cherishes her. I hear the word, I want him to cherish me. I want him to cherish me. You have to cherish yourself and be in that state to give that to him, that you cherish yourself, that you love yourself. That is the greatest gift you can give to them, not try and get that from them.
Oh, it's so true. And by the way, from a guy's perspective, let me give an example to
Please.
what happens. Yeah, from what
Yes.
happens in these situations, because that's actually been me on more than one occasion. Not a lot, but it's a lesson I've learned very painfully. But
Yep.
what happens is you get into a relationship with someone, they love who you are as a person, right? But then it gets to that place where they do kind of want that to be worshipped a little more. And you as a man try really hard to sort of treat them as the queen, to treat them, to give them all this wonder and amazement. And you start to live your life for them. And then what starts to happen is you start to lose respect for the guy that you once cared about, because now he's not really the man that you fell in love with. Now he's this guy that's subservient to you. And that's not that same strong kind of man or same whatever it was that you were attracted to that was unique about him. He's given that up so he could give you this queen experience. And you end up not liking it, ruining a relationship, and in some cases kind of screwing with the poor dude and getting him a little messed up. But it's his fault. It's his path. He chose this, and that's a whole another story.
But then when he stops or he falters,
changes
or
his mind, he finally says, "I'm done doing this," right? And then all of a sudden it's like, "Oh gosh, oh my God,
why isn't he doing this for me anymore?" And it's like your entitlement kicks in. I'm entitled. You were doing that for me before. Why are you not
my
doing
little
that anymore?
slave. You must make me feel good. How am I going to feel good if you're not juggling in front of me? What do they call the guy, the juggler with the
court
curly
jester?
shoes? Yeah, the court jester.
Court jester. You
sounds
did
much cooler when you say it.
Well.
When you say it, it sounds so cool, because that's where they all were. It was out there in the Queen's Land. Get the jester.
Yes.
Well, I'm not a jester. Well, you should be a jester. You should.
You do the Australian accent quite well.
Thank you. I try. I practice. I love you guys.
You'll be fine when you get here. You'll be fine.
Mate. G'day.
G'day, mate.
G'day.
No worries,
literally, I saw
mate.
him wrote it one time, and I'm like, no, it's literally G''day. And I was like, wow, no, it's g'day. There's no extra letters in there. Well, let's not waste time. That's what I love about you Australians. It's not like the English where you guys have all these extra letters and you pronounce all of them and all this crazy stuff. But like in Australia, they're like, no, we're getting rid of all those letters. No, they're expensive. Can't afford them. So, yeah. Well, it was a prison colony, originally, right? So, they didn't have a bunch of extra money to buy letters. They had to throw them away, get rid of them.
Convict.
The land of convicts.
Yeah, land of convicts. Okay, there's something else I want to read you too. Okay. Oh, here, this was good because I put 2 stars next to it, so it must be really, really good.
Dude, it's double good. Damn, double star, people.
Star.
Wait. For anyone that's driving right now while you're listening to this, pull over. It's about to get crazy. We got 2 stars, people.
Here we go.
2 stars.
Here we go.
Watch out.
Okay. Whenever the actions of the inner body match the actions which the outer must take to appease desire, that desire will be realized. Construct mentally a drama which implies that your desire is realized, and make it one which involves movement of the self. Immobilize your outer physical self. Act precisely as though you were going to take a nap. Start the predetermined action in imagination. A vivid representation of the action is the beginning of that action. Then, as you fall asleep, consciously imagine yourself into the scene. The length of the sleep is not important. A short nap is sufficient, but carrying the action into sleep thickens fancy into fact.
I love that. So one thing that really jumps out at me right off the bat that I don't want to lose is the idea of our imagery when we do it. What it sounds like he's suggesting, and at least it's amazing, it should be what he's suggesting because it's so powerful in doing it, is moving within your world that you're creating. It's actually not just viewing yourself from afar. It's not just necessarily viewing it right in front of you, but it's actually you know, if it's your first dance with your husband, for example, then imagine the different people you'd see as you guys are slowly doing turns, right?
Yes.
There's, like, you want to see all the faces that are looking in at you. That's where you're moving relative to your imagery, and you're giving it so much more depth and reality and power.
Exactly.
So that's
and
what
like
I'm hearing.
Like he says, Dan, you've got to make the imaginal scene involve movement of the self. So you're not sitting, you're not stagnant.
And you're relative
you are
to
literally moving around 3D as if you would in your real life. So you've got, this is a real nice little nugget from Neville. Create imaginal scenes where there's movement of you.
Right. Now, this brings up the thing. So this was the analogy that I was telling you I was going to sneak up on us, and I was planning on doing it in the other place, but this is the appropriate right now. So I think, we just got the bitch and Neville nugget for the moving relative to it. I'm using your words. I'm stealing. We're borrowing Agnes's Neville nuggets right now. It is. I just get to be a part of it. That's all. I'm lucky. But so you want to physically move your body within 3D space in your mind anyway, relative to this. But on top of that, a lot of people talk about the feeling of it, right? And here's the thing: is imagine if you had a magic lamp, right? Like, I don't know if people have the old Arab, the thing like Aladdin and stuff, where they have the little, you rub the lamp and a genie pops out and you get 3 wishes or whatever the hell. Imagine if you could rub a lamp and you'd say, "All right, this is the wish I would like to have fulfilled." And imagine you knew that worked, right? Maybe you knew you only had 3 of them, but imagine that all you had to do was make that wish from the genie's lamp, or the lamp and the genie in the lamp, and you would get your wish. That's how you would have to feel. Like, if you knew it worked like that, and you knew, you wouldn't question it. It's like, I know that if I take a little bag of microwave popcorn and I put it in the microwave for 3 minutes and 15 seconds. I'm sorry, let me go metric. 3 minutes and 15 seconds. There you go. That was pretty fun. And I pop it in there and I turn it on. I know for sure that I'm going to have popcorn, and I'm going to open it up, and I know what that feels like. But, like, I don't have to question it, right? I don't have to understand the mechanics of it. I don't have none of that. But it's that knowing. It's that knowing. So what does that feel like? What does it feel like to know I could have a popcorn? Well, I know if certain actions that I do, I know they create an outcome. And it's that knowing, it's that confidence, that I think that's where that feeling comes from, is I'm doing this, I'm imagining it, I'm seeing it, this is happening, done, end of story. And it's that and that's the part. It's still hard. I get it. And, practice, doing it a bunch over time. I mean, there's a lot of ways that we strengthen that, but ultimately it is that confidence. And the more confident you are, generally speaking, the quicker your manifestations occur. Yeah, so I think that coupled with that moving 3D, it's just that knowing this is happening. Yeah, you're unstoppable.
So, recapping, you hop into imagination. You basically do a few things in sequence. Firstly, you got to make sure you look out your own eyes.
Yes,
you're in the scene.
Yes, it's from your vantage point. Yes.
Secondly, you've got to involve movement of the self within the scene. Thirdly, you inject the feeling which you're talking about. If you can activate those 3 things within an imaginal scene and then drop into a nap or a short sleep, you've basically mastered what Neville is talking about.
Did you ever hear that song they have here in the States, or at least I learned as a kid, called the Hokey Pokey? You put your left foot in, you put your left foot in. Same thing, right? You kind of dip yourself into the imagination, you dip yourself into the law of attraction world, and it's eventually, before you know it, you're doing the law of attraction pokey. That's all I'm saying.
Law of attraction pokey.
Yeah, like the Hokey Pokey, but it's a different kind of pokey. It's or for those of you that like that, what is it, that salmon with that Hawaiian yummy sauce, pokey, P-O-K-E? That's good pokey, too. That's a good kind.
Nice.
Anyway, sorry.
You got some good side saddles
side saddle. Yeah. What do you call me, saddlebags? What's going on, Agnes? What are you saying, a fat? Stop it. That's just cruel. I'm sensitive right now. Stop it, people. I'm kidding, of course. Well, yeah, so we were, this kind of ties in, too, though, to a very famous Neville story that I thought was kind of interesting, and we'd sort of chit-chatted about a little bit, but I believe his name was E.O. Locker, a gentleman something dance studio or something like that. I think it was Arthur Murray dance studio, and he was like out, had like a Nevada section of it, or some Reno section or whatever, and anyway, it was an amazing story, I guess, how he was trying to prove to a friend, and you can correct me where I'm wrong here, but he was trying to prove to a friend that this law of attraction stuff work, and this friend was very adamant that all this positive thinking hokey pokey is just a bunch of crud, bunch of stuff and shinola, as they would say, even though I didn't use the proper word that they would say in the States here, but so he basically says, all right, here's what I'm gonna manifest. If I manifest something that's impossible, will you believe it? And the guy's like, yeah, I'll buy into that. What the hell? So he goes, all right, here's the thing. I'm gonna get the Arthur Murray Dance Studio to pay for a convention for the Reno chapter or whatever the hell they were. I don't know exactly.
Yeah.
And I guess the guy's like, all right, whatever. And so the guy, this E.O. Locker guy, I guess, built his business up to like 800% profit or some crazy number like that. And yeah, believe it or not, the Arthur Murray Dance Studio threw a convention for him, and he was sitting up on stage next to the Arthur Murray, and that's exactly what he had supposedly imagined when he was going through the whole process of what he was doing to imagine it, and looking at the crowd and the lights flashing, and just it's a very surreal experience when you've been on stage at all, and to imagine being on stage in front of thousands to millions is just it's kind of an awe-inspiring thing. But anyway, the power of that was pretty cool. And then his friend at the end of it all still seemed to kind of poo-poo it a little bit, but he's like, yeah, well, you're not using all that fancy positive stuff. And the guy's like,
yeah. And Dan, you and I will put the link down below for that particular YouTube. We want to give you a bit of a heads up. The guy does swear his head off.
Oh yeah, he drops a couple F-bombs. Love that.
And he also has a bit of a penchant for the women as well at the end.
Oh, a penchant. Oh,
yes.
Well then,
a bit of a penchant.
I don't even know what a penchant is, but it's said it with the French, and it could be like in nastiness, and it sounds in French so beautiful when they say "poo." It's like, oh, that sounds beautiful when you say it like
in French, it's a bit of a penchant for the women, and in English, Australian, US, he's a bit of a sex addict.
Amen. Bam. Yeah, he's in one of those 12-step programs or whatever for sex, I'm sure. He's like,
he's such a character. He's a real character. So for those that haven't seen
he's an older guy too at the time. It's pretty cool. I would assume he's probably not still with us. At least physically.
I'm not sure actually. Yeah, because that YouTube
he met
was done
Neville,
quite a while ago.
Didn't he?
He did.
Yeah, he was
and he's got that signed book of in that video. He shows you a signed copy of the Law and the Promise signed by Neville. So yeah.
And Neville, he passed away when? Do you remember?
Neville,
yeah.
I think it was 73, if I remember correctly.
How old was he? I know I could look all this stuff up, but where's the fun in that, right? When I could just talk to Encyclopedia Vivarelia.
Yeah, he was at least 70 something.
Okay,
you see the photos of him, and he's an older man.
Yeah, I mean, all the stuff I've seen of him, he wasn't exactly young and well. There's some of the pictures. Yeah, you're right. He was doing that stuff for many, many years. Anyway, he was amazing man. Amazing man.
Yeah.
And it is cool. Some of those the old recordings where you actually get to hear him talk. It's funny is his written word, even when read by him, makes more sense for some reason. Like he understands where his odd pauses belong, and most of us just read it and we're like, I have to take a breath. I can't keep saying the sentence without actually taking a breath in a place that I probably should still read, right? Like, so it is beautiful. But yeah, the story was fantastic. So yeah, E.O. Locker, for those of you that haven't checked it out, pretty solid proof. I mean, again, I as I've said many a time, to me, it's something that you prove to yourself. You could never really, truly prove it to another. And even in this case, you could look at it and be like, well, you just did all the right things. That's kind of what his friend said. You just did all the right things. You shook the right hands, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay. I mean, the point of the matter is... And people
can believe that.
Well,
that's fine.
But what happens, it seems, anyways, is as you do some of these techniques, you're actually the one that's attracting the right hands that you're shaking and those doors that are opening, and you're attracting those people into your life to help the sales go up 800%. So they're still, in my opinion, directly correlated. And it's...
I agree with you. I don't think there is coincidence. I think there's vibrational...
Even people that don't...
Photocopies.
Of what you're doing. By the way, and that goes way back to one of our very first show, ka-chink, ka-chink.
You remember that?
I love that. That's your copy noise. Your ka-chink, ka-chink is the best.
Yeah, the photocopy, the universal big photocopy.
Big photocopy. That's all it does. It just takes a little copy, a little snapshot of you, and it sends you on your way with a wonderful little copy.
Oh.
Ow! What's something
I don't
in
know.
Australia?
Something's but
It's probably deadly.
biting
I'm
me.
sure it's deadly. Whatever it is,
That's why I look with
it could be a sliver, but it's
slight
probably got
fear.
some sort of aboriginal poison on the tip or something crazy that's even gonna kill you. It's a crazy place.
Oh, bloody Australia.
You wear white so you can tell when there's blood, right? That's why you do it.
Exactly.
I'm sure it's just, oh, there's a red spot.
Yeah.
Oh no, something got me. Damn
Something
it.
got
Yeah,
me.
otherwise I wouldn't know. I'm just so used to getting eaten by critters. So anyway, well, Agnes, I think we covered some really amazing stuff.
Yeah.
On
No, that was good. It was a good. I love nutting out the mechanics of things, of how, and everybody's got their own right to see Neville and interpret Neville the way they want. This is yours and my take. This is how we think. This is how we, and I think too, I mean, for me, even reading Neville for 30 plus years, I'm just starting to really understand the deeper levels of what he's talking about and being able to apply it now. So it's not about being an expert, because I certainly don't feel like one. I feel like I'm going to be a student of Neville for the rest of my life, because I'm testing it out against myself. I'm playing a game of life, as Florence Scovel Shinn says, but I'm playing against myself to see these teachings. Are they able to come to life? Can I breathe life into this to create a result to show myself that it's possible? So that's really what the game is. You're playing against yourself all the time.
Probably 3 books.
Yeah.
That I can think of off the top of my head that I have reread a number of times in my life.
Yeah.
And it's usually over, a number of years, and then I'll read it again. And every time it's like you've said, it's reading it through new eyes, and it's a new understanding of it. That it's some things are so deep that to use an unfortunately overused analogy, but it's kind of like layers of an onion, and there's just so many layers that we're all trying to kind of unravel, and certainly within our own lives too, because then there comes back to that self-reflection, like, okay, well, I understand this intellectually, like I understand what's going on, and then it's like, all right, now I got to actually look at my life. I've got to put down my filters. I've got to stop making excuses, because a lot of us do that, right? Like it's like that really, you've kind of got to take ownership of you. And that's why we always say self-love and all that crap.
This brings me to some people keep sending me YouTubes of other law of attraction people and saying, what do you think about this? Now, I'm not going to mention any names, because I'm not, but I will say this. If someone is talking about manifesting money and abundance, but they're doing all their videos from their car, you've got to question whether they know what they're talking about. Because they obviously, you think, why are they always doing videos in their car if they're talking about making millions of dollars and how the quantum physics works and about all this stuff? Right. Look at what people are, not just what people are saying to you, look at what they're doing. Because just because somebody says something on YouTube doesn't mean that they understand it more than just a theory. Okay. Sure. You've got to understand that the people you're listening to are actually putting it into practice and not talking it out of that part of their body.
There's an adage here it's somewhat rude, I guess. It's not rude and crass and language wise, but just the concept of it. But there's for those who can do, for those who can't teach. Now, oddly, there are a certain group of people. Yeah, and sometimes you'll find people that actually have demonstrated that they can do it, and then you're lucky, hopefully, that they're teaching you too. Now, that's when you've really found someone that's a wonderful teacher, in my opinion, and that's usually what I look for in someone is like, can you demonstrate what you're talking about?
Exactly.
And
and I think that's why I had a conversation with my partner last week, and he said to me, if you're going to have any credibility talking about a specific person, you need to share a bit of your story. Now, I wasn't sharing my story, not because I didn't want to tell it, but because I wanted to maintain his anonymity and his privacy. Right. So we got together, we discussed what I would share, what I wouldn't share. So if I'm going to be talking about manifesting a specific person, they do have a right to know, the people watching, that I have actually manifested it, and I can share it from a reasonable place. So it is about watching, okay, you don't want to be doing what a lot of, and I will use the word, some spiritual centers, some religious people, some, don't do as I do as I say. Yeah. You have to know that if you're going to watch Dan or me or anybody else on YouTube, or you're going to go to any coach, that they're not just trying to sell you a package for their own financial gain, that they are actually talking to you from a place of understanding, experiencing the mechanics, the foundational emotions and mental state needed to create that thing that you want.
Right. Yeah, and that's true. And it really is. I mean, and I agree. For a lot of people, sometimes it's good just to have someone kind of listen to you from the outside, because again, we get in echo chambers sometimes, or we put ourselves in echo chambers even sometimes, where we hear what we want to hear, or we hear like we only see all the right things we're doing. We don't actually notice that, you know, every other sentence I'm saying something bad about myself in my head, like, God, I wish I wasn't fat.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, but everything's really good, and I love sunshine, and the flowers are beautiful. It make me look fat. But look at over here too, everything's great. But we have that nagging thing that we ignore. But it's the thing that we got to stop ignoring and embrace it, and really, like I keep saying, it's like when these little moments of contrast pop up, or these little moments of ugly show themselves. Like, embrace it, hug it. Don't run away from it. Don't freak out. It's okay. It's okay. It sucks. We all have our little things that need to be healed. But when you have the opportunity to heal it, feel it, heal it. Give it some love, and you'll be surprised at how many things start to open up in our lives when we start to get rid of some of the junk. Or there's a guy, Jordan Peterson, a Canadian that's really famous right now. He talks about keeping your room clean, like getting all the junk, the clutter removed from your life. And it's amazing how that does really seem to free our energy up. And
it does. And that applies to the physical spaces, mental spaces.
Clear the whole thing.
The junk.
Well, and they're tied together, right? The physical and the mental are tied together. I mean, what we're imagining is the mental part, and that's what creates the physical. Everything comes from, like I keep telling people a lot in my videos now, is it's your thoughts today are your tomorrow. Like, so what you're experiencing tomorrow are because of what you thought today. Or
exactly.
So that's the thing. If you don't like what's happening today, and so many people do this when they're manifesting, but there's a third party and blah blah blah. I'm like, stop looking at your right now. If you keep looking at your right now, you're going to create another version of that ka-chunk tomorrow.
Ka-chunk. Yeah.
You get another day of him being in a third party relationship, or there's this I'm manifesting where we're together. And obviously he's not in a third-party relationship, because that's not okay, right? So then keep focusing on that. Who gives a crap what's going on right now? I don't care. Right now is what you're trying to change. So focus on what you would like to experience. And, hey, guess what? Maybe your tomorrow will be different than your today.
Exactly. So, I might come to you for some coaching next week.
Okay.
Because that was brilliant.
Thank you.
Well said.
You scared me. I'm like, she's joking. Don't do that to me in front of people. That's awesome. You're the best on this.
We'll do our next session will be a live coaching session.
we're gonna figure it out too, but I still think one of these days we should do a live. I think we'll just have to pick like your channel or something. We'll just do it through your web thingy or whatever. But I think it'd be fun to do a live one and just take questions from people. And actually, with both of us doing it too, it might be easier to field some of the questions while one person's talking, the other can be like, ooh, I found a good question, right?
Yeah,
so I think that'd be a blast.
You get the female and male perspective, and you need two halves of a nut.
Yeah, two halves of the nut makes a whole nut, and that's what's beautiful about this two organic nuts that we got going on here.
Yeah,
Agnes, thanks so much for another great show, and you guys will probably be doing another one in a couple weeks.
We will.
All that good stuff, so we'll talk to you all soon.
Cool.
Ciao.
Dan, hang on. We'll say goodbye in private.
You got it. All right, ciao.